Hey everyone, I'm back again. Um, so uh, I want to go a little off topic right now. Hold on, I'm going to turn off my phone. But I'm going to tie it back in to astrology. There's a lot going on in the world, which I feel like needs to be talked about by not just me, but by everyone. But I need to do my part. And as soon as I start talking, I get text always. Um, but there's a lot of really, really crucial stuff going on in the world right now. And it's difficult to talk about because everything is censored here on YouTube. And, I'm not a big character yet, so I can't like just go and switch over to like another platform and build up an audience. I wouldn't have anyone barely listening. I barely have anyone listening to me here, so I really wouldn't have anyone listening to me on the other ones. So I do have to be careful what I say or what I don't say, or what I say, really. But I want to say something about all the things that are happening. People are dying. Um, it's from obvious causes. Those who have been paying attention, the squirt arm juice, stuff like that, the fakeness, the lies, the stupidemic, all these things. And I want to tie it into politics and the left right wing paradigm just to clear up some things about where we're headed, where we've been, and all that. Back when I was a kid, I was into punk rock, and the politics of punk rock is basically anarchy and freedom, right? And that government is bad. All government is bad. And now if you ask somebody what's the difference between left and right wing, they say, well, right wing are the Nazis and the nationalists, and left wing are obviously communists, but socialists, so democratic socialists. Left wing will be like, well, democratic socialism is left wing, and that's what we want. And right wing, they're the Nazis, the nationalists. If you're patriotic and nationalistic, then you're right wing, and you're leaning towards the Nazis. Well, the Nazis were socialists. We know that. I mean, that was very clearly the case. But the point is that there's a lot of obfuscation and lies and gaslighting nowadays, going through the mainstream media, Wikipedia. I mean, every media source where you try, like, they just change the definitions of things. They change the definition of recession just so they can say we're not in recession. They change the definition of the V, just so that they could call the new squirt juice arm thingy jibby jabber, a V. Speaking in code here. And so what I'm getting at is, like, what's the difference between a communist regime and a fascist regime? Well, virtually nothing. I mean, Mussolini defined fascism as the marriage between corporatism and government, where corporate and government interests are aligned. Well, if that's fascism, we've had fascism all along. And they're gaslighting us by telling us that's capitalism. That's not capitalism, that's fascism by definition. And so when you make this false paradigm that the left side of things is fascism, or sorry, the right side of things is fascism and the left is communism, well, that's a false paradigm, because both sides are big government. And what Hitler had was a big government, tyrannical, fascist, socialist, communist. They're the same thing. Socialism, communism, fascism. I mean, socialism is sort of like, what, I guess, a lighter form of communism. But whether it's communist or fascist, it's really just, birds of a feather. I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's big government tyranny, dictatorship, and socialism is just a lighter version of that. It's leading up to that. No, I'm not for leaving people. I don't want to get too detailed about this. It's like obviously I'm not for like, letting handicapped people suffer and not helping. Like there are obviously people that need help from, we need to pool some of our resources together. But if you ask me, what am I for? Obviously not complete anarchy, because anarchy will not work. I mean, you'd eventually end up with some form of government. It would probably be pretty dictatorial. Roving gangs would come together and start demanding, payment so that they don't, destroy your business and beat you up or murder you. But whatever. I would be very much for small local government that was empowered by bigger governments. And I don't want to get too detailed into this, but basically small local government that was supported by some sort of constitution where you could go to a town hall and vote and have your vote and have your voice be actually represented, versus a bigger and bigger government is what we're facing nowadays, leaning towards world government, right? Which is horrible, because you have no voice. You have no voice in a huge government like that. Already the way it is, like, we have virtually no voice. The last election was stolen. It was stolen. Like, that's not a left-right thing. It was stolen. It was a stolen election. And I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. But we're facing tyranny. We're facing so much tyranny on all around, and censorship, and the dismantling of justice. And I don't know if you know about the Alex Jones case, but I mean, it's a really stacked court. They've already found him guilty without trial. Before trial, they're just like, he's guilty, and they pick that it's all rigged. It's all rigged, and they're rigging the courts. They're, it's pre-decided. There's no, we're moving into, like, kangaroo court, banana republic kind of system where there's no rule of law. Like, one of the things that makes America great is the Constitution, which is rule by law. It's not actually democracy. We live in a republic, which means rule by law. And the difference is that democracy is where democracy is what is it? Groupthink, basically. It's mob rule. It's like the Salem witch hunts, where whatever psychosis the mob is under, that becomes the rule, the law. But in a republic, the republic actually defends the minority, whereas democracy does not, right? Because democracy, if 10 people decide that they want your bike, your vote is that your vote is overpowered, then you don't get to keep your bike, because the mob decided that they want your bike, so they take your bike, and that's mob rule. And it's always of the lowest mentality. And if you study, like, the great philosophers of the ages, they all said the same thing. The masses are the stupidest people. The masses of it, whatever the masses think, it's usually the dumbest thing. But that's why we have a constitution which actually protects the minority, and the smallest minority is the individual, right? Without having individual rights protected, then the minority loses out. We don't have freedom in that case. And it's a false dichotomy. They'll put up the argument, well, for the greater good, for the benefit of the whole of society, we each have to make sacrifices. And that's nonsense. That's garbage. Really, what is best for the whole is what is best for the individual. individual freedoms, individual rights, individual choices. There really is no case where the individual must sacrifice his rights for the greater good, the rights of freedom. You know, taxes are another question. I don't believe in income tax, but that's going into details, which I'm not, that's not the point of this talk. Just in general, generally speaking, the right to self-defense, you know, the right to bear arms, the right to freedom of speech, the right to not be discriminated against. And what we're facing right now is a lot of discrimination. Like people say, well, these are private companies, they can you know, they can discriminate. Well, no, for private companies operating in the public, like you can't go to restaurants cannot discriminate. You cannot, a restaurant can't say, oh, you can't come in here if you're black, or you can't come in here if you're Japanese, or you can't come in here if you're you know, Mexican, right? That's discrimination. You can't come in here if you're a woman. You can't come in here if you're gay. That's discrimination because they're open to the public for business. They cannot discriminate. And so a public platform, public media platform really should not be able to discriminate based on political views, social views, any other kind of views. We have freedom of speech that's protected. So what they're doing really is I mean, obviously the lawmakers are not moving to take action, but they should, because it's discriminatory, you know, based on political views, they decide who gets to be heard and who doesn't. That's ridiculous. That's nonsense. It's total discrimination. No different than you know, a restaurant discriminating by race or by creed or by color or by sex or by gender or by whatever. Discrimination is discrimination, and as a modern society, that's anti-progressive. That's the opposite. They call themselves progressives. That's anti-progressive. That's regressive. That's prejudice. That's you know, that's right up there with racism, sexism. It's prejudice. Yeah, so those are the things I wanted to touch on, but I also wanted to tie it into astrology. I'm going to share my screen. So these are the current transits. First of all, I just want to say one thing. I was this conjunction, I made a video warning about this. I was a little bit wrong because what I forgot to factor in was Venus, which is the ruler of Taurus. And it was also a few days ago, you can see it's at 20 degrees now. A few days ago, it was at 18. So these all lined up perfectly with Venus being sextile. Now, Venus having a sextile with these, it's really lending a lot of good benefic energy towards this conjunction. Otherwise, I think it would have been much worse. If Venus were somewhere else, you know, not casting a good aspect towards its domicile in Taurus, I think this combination would have been much worse, because Mars is very aggressive in Taurus. It's very agitated and angry. Uranus also is not great, not good at all. And then, you know, North Node is kind of expanding this. I think there could have been a much more explosive situation had it not been for Venus. But I think Venus is keeping the peace here from Cancer. You know, the moon moves too fast for it to factor in. It's not really going to play much of a role, even though it rules Cancer. But anyway. One of the big issues that we're having these days is Neptune in Pisces. You can see this in a lot of ways. I mean, one thing is with all the lies and deceit and gaslighting. Number two is with the kind of Neptune and Piscean combination that it dictates that anything goes with Neptune and Pisces. Neptune and Pisces kind of like all embracing. And so you see this especially with like youth culture where like with the rainbow colored hair, and I don't know if you've seen any of these videos with these young kids doing like all sorts of crazy plastic surgery that makes them look absolutely ridiculous, like absolute like clown worlds. Like we have a bunch of youth running around looking like clowns, literally clown. Like they puff up their lips. They have these clown lips. They're just huge, and then like the multicolored hair, and then like all these extent like this craziness, like rainbow colored craziness is all the rage right now, and that's all Neptune and Pisces. It's just insanity. Anything goes. The gaslighting about the trans issue, and I don't want to like get all into that, like because it's such a touchy issue. But that's the other thing, like the hypersensitivity that we're having right now. Like everything is like you have to walk on eggshells so you don't offend somebody. Like that's all Neptune and Pisces. It's just like when somebody's like just eats way too much sugar and like cold dairy, and they just become like hypersensitive to everything. That's what we're seeing right now. This excessive expansion of society where everyone's just like a I don't want to say because it'll be offensive to someone, but like a teenage girl who's maybe I don't know on her period or something, and she's just like everything just upsets her. That's where we are as society, and that's what we're kind of empowering with Neptune and Pisces, really empowering that whole that mind frame. A lot of what we're witnessing and the real difficulties that we're seeing right now is Neptune and Pisces because it's such an extreme transit. I know that Neptune is supposed to be dignified in Pisces, so we're getting. I mean, I think it has its plus side in that I think people are connecting to God more than ever, and that's really the positive side of things. But the negative side of things is just mass delusion, craziness, insanity. Like I said, the over acceptance of everything, no boundaries, boundarylessness, complete embrace of just all absurdities. Anything you can think of is like acceptable. Like people thinking that they're cats and they speak in cat language, meow meow. Like, no, you're not a cat. And identity, I hate to break it to you, but identity doesn't mean anything. If you study spirituality, like you're supposed to get out of identity, because that's ego, illusion, Maya. So we're empowering this whole like delusion trip, which is very Piscean, very Neptunian, to go way deep into delusion and asleepness. It's not like Pisces, not all about like awake spirituality. That is a part of it. Very sublime truths, and that's the God side of things, where real connection to God is a very high aspect of Pisces and Neptune. The low end of Neptune and Pisces is just insanity, like literally like mental insanity, and that's really where we're what we're seeing a lot of in society, like just empowering insanity and saying that this is what is real, and it's not. Like, and we just need to get a grip on our lives and our brains and just recognize what we're witnessing is just a total abundance of insanity being played out in like all levels of society, from the schools and the media, the government, just like everyone's just like echoing the complete like we're living in an insane asylum, and just it's an echo chamber of like just total mental delusions and fantasy and lies and deceit and gaslighting. It's just disturbing, really. But the good news is that come 2025, Neptune's moving into Aries. So all you hypersensitive snowflakes better get ready, because we're moving out of delusion territory. I mean, we've been here for quite a while. This is not the good news is this is not the future. This is not like the ongoing thing that's just going to keep going, because society moves in cycles, and astrology is the study of these cycles that we can witness and watch and predict, even because we see it happening in real time. we're going to move out of the delusion of Pisces, and we're going to move into something much more active and physical and aggressive, and that's Aries. And it'll be such a relief from this watery ocean of gaslighting and delusional, insane fantasy, clown world, as I like to call it, into Aries, which is something that, it's like, yeah, let's get her done. Get her done. Leadership, Aries. Aries does bring war, but you know what? I mean, I feel like we're drowning. We're drowning in Neptunian Pisces energy. And yeah, I mean, there's a war, to paraphrase, not paraphrase, actually quote, there's a war on for your minds with Neptune and Pisces. I mean, it's the war for sanity versus insanity. That's the war we're facing right now. At least with Neptune in Aries, we're going to get a lot more clarity. The gaslighting and the clown world ridiculousness is going to end. We're going to get a lot more physical and a lot more initiating into real things, a lot more movement. At the same time, and I already talked about this, Uranus is going to move into Gemini out of stagnant Taurus, which is great because the food shortages and financial crisis will get a breather from that. Uranus rules progress in society and new ideas, and Taurus rules food and money. And so with Uranus and Taurus, it was predicted. We knew this was coming. Astrologers did. We're going to have real issues with food and money. That's all going to end with Uranus and Gemini. We'll have other issues, but Uranus and Gemini is much more fast moving, and together with Neptune in Aries, that's really like, we're going to get out of the fog and the mud. We're stuck in the mud and the fog right now, and that's what's really hard. And then also with next year, we're going to see Pluto in Aquarius, which is really exciting. I'm really excited for that. There's going to be some negative things to come out of that, because Aquarius also represents, number one, transhumanism. Number two, AI, robots, technology. But on the plus side, it represents the Great Awakening, the freedom of humanity, and the empowerment of humanity. So the war, the struggle there is going to be between dystopia and utopia, between transhumanism and natural human beings. They're going to try and tell us that it's better to be a transhumanist, and you're going to get left in the dust and made irrelevant if you're not on the transhumanist agenda, and that's false. That's a lie. But the gaslighting will be real because Neptune will still be in Pisces. And so the potential for the media and for everyone to buy into this whole lies or truth paradigm is it's not only possible, it's probable, it's likely, and it's already very strongly happening, and we're going to see more of that, right? Yeah, so like I said, things are going to get better. The struggle's not over, the war is not over, but we're in a real changing of the guards in all society. And I mean, we're witnessing it with these three planets are forming are moving into trine and sextile. I think in like 2025, they perfect as much as they can perfect their degree of trine, Neptune trine, Pluto trine Uranus, both sextile Neptune, and that's going to be pretty powerful. And they're going to be in air and fire, Aquarius, Gemini, and Aries, and that's going to be pretty unique. And I think 2025 is going to be an extremely powerful year that we're going to witness a lot of change. And so astrologically, I mean, it really does make sense if we look at the ages in the past, like when the powerful age of the shift of the ages happened. It happened when the outer planets made some unusual alignment. Pluto and Uranus in Virgo in the 60s, Neptune and Uranus in the early 90s, huge culture shift. And now we're moving into this harmonious trine and sextile arrangement, and we're witnessing another really powerful shift for the ages. It's not all going to be easy, but I think ultimately it's going to be for the best. And yeah, so I'm excited for that. But final point is, don't buy into the lies. Keep your head on your shoulders. Don't let them make you think that your common sense logic is wrong, because that's what they're trying to tell you. And that big government is best and knows best, and let's just listen to the authorities and do what you're told and don't question all this stuff that they're trying to tell you that you're wrong, they're right. It's all gaslighting. It's all illusion, fantasy, delusion, tyranny. They're hitting us hard. They're trying to take over our minds. That's this Neptune and Pisces. They're trying to take over our minds. They're trying to convince us that our sanity is insanity and their insanity is sanity. They're trying to turn it around and flip around the paradigm on us. Don't let it happen. Right? They're wrong. They're lying. They're gaslighting. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to take over the whole world and create one world communist government with their rule, with 90% of the population dead, the rest of them eating bugs and transhumanists, computer chips in the brain. That's what they're, and completely dependent on the pharma industry to just stay alive. You're gonna have to inject your immune system once a month and just take a whole host of pills. And if you don't take your pills, you'll probably, drop dead. That's what they want. They want to completely take you over. And it's the end of humanity. It's the end of humanity if you follow that path. Nature has always supported health. Nature will always support health. We can rely on nature for health and intelligence and humanity and the truth. And nothing else will give us that. They certainly cannot give us that. And they're certainly not smart enough to give us what more than we've gotten already. Because God and nature made our bodies what it is, and they did not. And they want to say, well, we can do more than God. Well, no, because this is already a work of art. This is already a masterpiece. The human body is a masterpiece. The human intelligence is a masterpiece. It's God created us, and nature created us together. There's no difference. I'm not saying, some people say God is separate from nature. No, God is not separate from nature. God is nature, right? And so they want to take away our naturalness and say, we can design you better than God because we are gods and God doesn't exist. They're lying, and these are psychopaths, complete psychopaths who are evil, and they're pedophiles and they're satanic, and they kill babies and eat babies and drink their blood, literally. I mean, this is literally what they do. But you can find that out for yourself. All right, guys. Anyway, this is such an interesting time, and I have to talk about it. It doesn't matter if it's slightly off topic. It's still on topic. So it all ties together. It's all important. Anyway, keep your head on your shoulders, keep your humanity. Don't follow, be independent and think for yourself and do your research and don't eat the bugs. And for God's sakes, don't do what you're told. for me, it's like, I can't do what I'm told. I have Uranus on the ascendant. I will not, like, just, you'll have to kill me. I cannot do it. But the message from Uranus to all of you is, don't do what you're told. Stop doing what you're told. Stop following. Like, stop following. All right. That's the message here. Stop following. Stop believing. Know that they're lying to you and refuse to be lied to, and refuse to eat the bugs, refuse to be an android, a transhumanist, and refuse to let them gaslight you and tell you that, the whatever, you can change. All you have to do is identify with, a rabbit, and you become a rabbit, or whatever. Put computer chips in your brain and eat bugs, and whatever they're lying to you about, just refuse it, and just know that they're lying, and that you need to be injected in order to not have a cold, which is not. They're all lying about everything. It's 100% lies. They're not telling the truth about a single goddamn thing. Like, it's 100,000% lies. It was all a lie. The whole thing was a lie. Okay, it was all a lie. All of it. There was no truth to it. None of it. All right, I'm done ranting. But I just really want you to understand where we're at. There's a war on for your minds, and they're trying to convince you that pharmaceutical industries have your best interest, and the corporate has your best interest, and UN agenda and one world government, we're here to save you. They're not. They're here to kill you. They want you dead. And if you're not dead, they want you eating bugs with computer chips in your brain and completely dependent on the pharmaceutical industry. So that's what is ahead for you if you think that you can trust them. You can't trust them. They want you dead. I'm repeating myself, but it's really, really important, critical time we're in right now. And you need to understand where we're at. And just stop believing the lies. All right, guys. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.